The night was cold, darker than usual with a heavy storm rolling in from the horizon. The kind of storm that made people want to stay indoors, wrapped in blankets, sipping hot tea. But Mia Harper didn't have that luxury. At just 18 years old, she carried the weight of her family on her shoulders. Her mother was sick, bedridden for months, and her little brother depended on her too. Every penny mattered, and every hour worked meant another day they could keep their tiny apartment above the noisy laundromat downtown. Mia had finished her shift at the diner where she worked as a waitress. It wasn't glamorous work, long hours, sore feet, and customers who sometimes forgot to tip, but it paid the bills. As she stepped out into the rain-soaked streets, pulling her thin jacket tighter around herself, she sighed. The wind cut through her like knives, and her sneakers were already soaked from the puddles she'd been dodging all evening. She pulled her hood up, clutching her bag close to her chest, and started walking home. The route she took was familiar, but not exactly safe. It wound through a quieter part of town, past abandoned buildings and stretches of empty road surrounded by dense woods. Most people avoided this area after dark, but Mia didn't have much choice. Taking the bus would cost money she couldn't spare, and besides, she knew these streets well enough to navigate them quickly. Still, tonight felt different. Maybe it was the howling wind, or the way the trees seemed to lean closer, casting eerie shadows in the flickering streetlights. Or maybe it was just her tired mind playing tricks on her. As she walked, lightning split the sky, illuminating everything in sharp relief for a brief second. That's when she saw it. A massive explosion near the edge of the road ahead. Flames shot high into the air, lighting up the darkness like daylight. For a moment, Mia froze, unsure if what she was seeing was real. Then came the sound, the deafening roar of fire crackling and metal groaning under intense heat. Her heart raced as she realized there was a car, completely engulfed in flames, its sleek frame now twisted and warped beyond recognition. Without thinking, Mia ran toward the wreckage. Fear gripped her, but so did something else. A sense of responsibility. What if someone was trapped inside? She couldn't just stand there and do nothing. The closer she got, the more unbearable the heat became. Smoke billowed into the air, stinging her eyes and making it hard to breathe. Through the chaos, she heard it, a faint voice barely audible over the roaring flames. Help. Please. Mia squinted through the smoke and spotted a figure slumped over the steering wheel. A man, his face pale and streaked with soot, his clothes singed. His leg was pinned beneath the crumpled dashboard and blood trickled down his temple. He looked desperate, terrified, and yet somehow regal, even in such dire circumstances. His eyes locked onto hers, pleading silently for salvation. For a split second, Mia hesitated. This wasn't some training exercise, this was real life, and the stakes were unimaginably high. If she tried to help and failed, both of them could end up dead. But looking into those wide, frightened eyes, she knew she couldn't turn away. Summoning every ounce of courage she possessed, she scanned the scene for anything she could use to free him. Spotting a fallen tree branch nearby, she grabbed it, testing its strength before wedging it between the mangled door and the frame of the car. Using all her might, Mia pushed against the branch, grunting with effort as the metal groaned in protest. The flames licked dangerously close, threatening to swallow her whole, but she refused to give up. Finally, with one last shove, the door creaked open just enough for her to reach inside. She grabbed the man's arm, pulling with every fiber of her being until he slid free of the wreckage. They collapsed together onto the wet asphalt, coughing and gasping for air as the inferno continued to rage behind them. For several moments, neither of them spoke. The man lay there, trembling, staring up at the rain-soaked sky as though he couldn't believe he was still alive. Mia sat beside him, drenched and exhausted, her hands blistered from the heat and her lungs burning from the smoke. Yet despite everything, she felt a strange sense of relief. She had done it. Against all odds, she had saved a life. When the man finally found his voice, it was soft, almost broken. "Thank you," he whispered, his words barely audible over the rain. You saved me." Mia shook her head, brushing strands of wet hair out of her face. "I just did what anyone would have done," she replied, though deep down she Wasn't sure that was true. Not everyone would risk their life for a stranger, especially in a situation as terrifying as this one. As they sat there catching their breath, Mia noticed something odd about the man. Despite his disheveled state, there was an air of refinement about him, a quality that set him apart from anyone she'd ever met. His suit, though torn and charred, was clearly expensive, and his watch glinted faintly even in the dim light. Whoever this man was, he wasn't ordinary. And as the reality of what had just happened began to sink in, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that her life, and his, would never be the same again. The rain continued to pour as Mia and the stranger sat on the cold, wet asphalt, both drenched and shivering. The fire from the car had begun to die down, leaving behind a smoldering wreck that still glowed faintly in the darkness. The man tried to sit up, wincing in pain as he shifted his injured leg. Mia immediately reached out to steady him, her hands trembling not just from the cold but from the adrenaline that still coursed through her veins. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice soft but firm. "Can you move?" The man nodded weakly, though it was clear he was struggling. "I think so," he managed to say, his voice hoarse. He looked at her again, this time with a mixture of gratitude and disbelief. You really saved my life back there." Mia shrugged, trying to downplay her actions. "I just did what anyone would have done," she repeated, though deep down, she knew it wasn't entirely true. Not everyone would have run toward a burning car in the middle of a storm. But she didn't want to dwell on that now. Instead, she focused on the immediate problem, getting him somewhere safe. "Do you live nearby?" she asked, glancing around. The road was deserted, and the storm showed no signs of letting up. They couldn't stay here, not with the risk of exposure or worse, another explosion if the car's fuel tank ignited. The man hesitated, then shook his head. "No, I don't live here. I was traveling." His words were vague, almost evasive, but Mia didn't press him. She figured he'd been through enough already without having to explain himself. "Well, you can't stay out here," she said decisively. "My place isn't far from here. It's small, but it's dry, and we can get you cleaned up." The man looked at her, surprise flickering across his face. "You'd do that for me? After everything?" Mia gave him a small smile. "You're hurt and it's freezing out here. What else am I supposed to do, leave you on the side of the road?" He chuckled weakly, though the sound was tinged with pain. "Most people would." "Well, I'm not most people," Mia replied simply. She helped him to his feet, supporting his weight as they began the slow, awkward walk toward her apartment. Every step seemed to take an eternity, especially since the man, whose name she still didn't know, could barely put pressure on his injured leg. But Mia refused to let him fall. She adjusted her grip, steadying him whenever he stumbled, and kept talking to distract them both from the discomfort. "So, what were you doing out here anyway?" she asked after a while, partly out of curiosity, and partly to fill the silence. "This isn't exactly a busy part of town." The man hesitated again, as if debating how much to reveal. Finally, he sighed. "I was running late, trying to avoid traffic, and some other things, and I lost control of the car when the road got slick." Mia raised an eyebrow. "Some other things?" He glanced at her, then looked away. "Paparazzi. They've been following me everywhere lately." That caught Mia off guard. "Paparazzi?" She frowned, trying to piece together why someone would be hounded by photographers in a place like this. Before she could ask more, they reached her building, a modest, slightly run-down structure nestled between a laundromat and a corner store. The neon sign above the entrance buzzed faintly, casting a pale pink glow over the cracked pavement. "This is me," Mia said, gesturing to the door. "It's nothing fancy, but it'll keep us dry." The man nodded gratefully. "It's perfect." "Thank you." Inside, the hallway smelled faintly of damp carpet and cleaning supplies. Mia led him up the narrow staircase to her apartment, which was cramped but cozy. Posters of landscapes and motivational quotes covered the walls, and a threadbare couch dominated the living room. Her mother slept in the bedroom while Mia and her younger brother shared a fold-out cot in the corner. Despite its size, the space radiated warmth, thanks to the care Mia had put into making it feel like home. "Here, sit down," she instructed, guiding the man to the couch. "I'll grab some towels and see if I can find something for your leg." As Mia rummaged through a closet for first aid supplies, the man took in his surroundings. His gaze lingered on the framed photos of Mia's family, the stack of unpaid bills on the kitchen counter, and the mismatched furniture. There was a simplicity to the apartment that felt genuine, a stark contrast to the opulence he was accustomed to. For the first time in years, he felt a sense of calm, a quiet appreciation for the little things he'd long taken for granted. When Mia returned with a damp towel and a rudimentary first aid kit, she found him staring at one of the photos. It showed Mia, her mother, and her brother smiling brightly at the camera, their arms wrapped around each other. She paused, feeling a pang of nostalgia. Those moments of happiness had been rare lately, overshadowed by worry and hardship. "That's your family?" the man asked softly. Mia nodded, handing him the towel. "Yeah. My mom's sick, so I've been working extra shifts to cover her medical bills. And my brother, well, he's a handful, but he's worth it." The man studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable. "You're very brave, Mia." She laughed nervously, dabbing at the cuts on his face with antiseptic wipes. "Brave? No, I'm just doing what I have to do. We all have our battles, right?" Her casual dismissal of her own strength struck a chord with him. In his world, people rarely did anything without expecting something in return. Yet here was this young woman, risking her life for a complete stranger and offering him shelter without hesitation. It was humbling and deeply moving. After tending to his wounds as best she could, Mia stepped back, surveying her handiwork. "There. That should hold you over until morning. If your leg doesn't feel better by then, we'll need to take you to a doctor." The man shook his head firmly. "No hospitals, please." Mia frowned. "Why not? You could have serious injuries." "I'll be fine," he insisted, though his tone suggested there was more to the story. "Really, Mia, you've done enough already. More than enough." She crossed her arms, unconvinced. "Fine, but don't blame me if you end up limping. For the rest of your life." He smiled faintly, leaning back against the couch. "Noted." They sat in companionable silence for a while, the storm outside gradually subsiding. Eventually, Mia excused herself to check on her mother and brother, leaving the man alone with his thoughts. As he listened to the muffled sounds of her family moving about in the next room, he realized how much he owed this remarkable young woman. She had saved his life, not because she expected anything in return, but because it was the right thing to do. When Mia returned, carrying a mug of hot tea, she found him staring pensively into the distance. She handed him the drink, sitting down beside him on the floor. "So," she said lightly, "you never told me your name." He looked at her, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Adrian," he said. "Adrian Kingsley." Mia blinked, processing the name. It sounded familiar, though she couldn't quite place it. "Well, Adrian Kingsley, welcome to my humble abode. Make yourself comfortable. I doubt you'll be going anywhere tonight." Adrian smiled, raising the mug in a mock toast. "Thank you, Mia, for everything." And as they sat there, sharing stories and laughter late into the night, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that this chance encounter might change her life in ways she couldn't yet imagine. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the thin curtains of Mia's apartment, casting a warm glow over the cramped but cozy space. Adrian stirred on the couch, wincing as he shifted his injured leg. The pain hadn't lessened overnight, but it was manageable, thanks in no small part to Mia's care. He sat up slowly, rubbing his temples and taking stock of his surroundings. For someone who had spent most of his life in luxury hotels and sprawling mansions, waking up in this modest apartment felt surreal. Mia emerged from the kitchen, balancing 2 plates of scrambled eggs and toast. Her hair was tied back in a loose ponytail, and she wore an oversized sweater that made her look younger than her 18 years. Despite the chaos of her life, there was a quiet confidence about her, a strength that Adrian found deeply admirable. "Breakfast is served," she said with a grin, setting one plate on the coffee table in front of him. "It's not much, but it's better than nothing." Adrian smiled gratefully, picking up a fork. "This looks amazing, Mia. Thank you." They ate in companionable silence, the sounds of birds chirping outside mingling with the faint hum of traffic from the street below. As they finished their meal, Adrian turned to Mia, his expression serious. "I need to talk to you about something." Mia raised an eyebrow, curiosity flickering across her face. "What is it?" Adrian hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "You've done so much for me. Saving my life, bringing me here, taking care of me. I can't begin to repay you for that, but I'd like to try." Mia frowned, shaking her head. "You don't owe me anything, Adrian. I didn't help you because I expected something in return." "I know," he said quickly, "and that's exactly why I want to do this. People like you are rare, Mia. You remind me of what truly matters. Kindness, selflessness, integrity. Those are qualities I value more than anything else." He paused, leaning forward slightly. "Here's what I'm proposing. I'll cover your mother's medical bills, all of them, and I'll make sure your brother gets access to the best education possible. Beyond that, I'd like to offer you a position at my company, Kingsley Tech. We can train you, give you opportunities to grow, and help you build a future you deserve." Mia stared at him, stunned. Her mind raced as she processed his words. Medical bills covered, scholarships for her brother, a job at one of the most prestigious companies in the world. It sounded too good to be true, and yet, looking into Adrian's earnest eyes, she knew he meant every word. "But why?" she asked finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why would you do all this for someone you barely know?" Adrian sighed, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "Because I believe in second chances, because you've shown me what it means to be human, and because I have the resources to make a difference, not just for myself, but for others. You've earned this, Mia, every bit of it." Tears welled up in Mia's eyes, though she blinked them away quickly. She hated crying in front of anyone, let alone someone like Adrian. But his generosity overwhelmed her. For so long, she'd carried the weight of her family's struggles alone, convinced that no one else could or would help. Now, suddenly, the burden felt lighter, almost bearable. "I don't know what to say," she admitted, her voice trembling. This changes everything." Adrian reached out, placing a gentle hand on hers. "Say yes, Mia. Let me help you. Not because I pity you, but because I respect you. Because you deserve a chance to shine." Mia took a deep breath, weighing her options. Part of her wanted to refuse, to insist that she could handle things on her own. Pride was a powerful force, after all. But another part of her, the practical, realistic part, knew she couldn't turn down such an incredible opportunity. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about her family, her brother's future, and the life she'd always dreamed of but never dared to pursue. Finally, she nodded, her decision firm. "Okay, yes, thank you, Adrian. I won't let you down." Adrian smiled, relief washing over him. "You already haven't." Over the next few weeks, Adrian kept his promises. He arranged for Mia's mother to receive top-notch medical treatment, covering every expense without hesitation. Her condition improved dramatically, giving Mia peace of mind she hadn't felt in years. Meanwhile, he secured scholarships for her brother, ensuring he could attend a prestigious school where his potential could flourish. As for Mia, she began working at Kingsley Tech, starting in a junior role but quickly proving herself invaluable. Adrian took her under his wing, mentoring her and teaching her the intricacies of the tech industry. At first, she felt out of place among the polished professionals who seemed to glide effortlessly through the corporate world. But with Adrian's guidance and her own relentless determination, she adapted, learning skills she never thought possible. Her colleagues were initially skeptical of her sudden rise, whispering behind her back about favoritism. But Mia silenced the doubters with her hard work and natural talent. She tackled every challenge with enthusiasm, earning the respect of even the harshest critics. Slowly but surely, she carved out a place for herself within the company, transforming from a wide-eyed newcomer into a confident, capable professional. Through it all, her relationship with Adrian remained central to her journey. Though their roles had shifted, from rescuer and rescued to mentor and protege, their bond only grew stronger. They spent countless hours discussing strategies, brainstorming ideas, and sharing stories about their lives. Adrian opened up to her in ways he rarely did with anyone else, revealing vulnerabilities he typically kept hidden behind a mask of success. In turn, Mia shared her dreams and fears, trusting him completely. One evening, as they worked late in Adrian's office, Mia looked out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the glittering city skyline. "It's strange," she said softly. "A few months ago I was just trying to survive. Now I feel like I'm actually living." Adrian joined her at the window, gazing out at the view. "That's the power of opportunity, Mia. When people are given a chance to succeed, they often surprise even themselves." She glanced at him, gratitude shining in her eyes. "I couldn't have done any of this without you." "You underestimate yourself," he replied, his tone warm. "You had the strength and resilience all along. I just gave you the tools to unlock your potential." Mia smiled, feeling a surge of pride. For so long, she'd defined herself by her struggles, believing she was destined to remain trapped in a cycle of hardship. But now she saw herself differently, as someone capable of achieving greatness, of breaking free from limitations and forging her own path. Still, amidst all the change, Mia couldn't shake a lingering question. What did Adrian expect in return? Was this purely an act of kindness, or was there something more beneath the surface? She pushed the thought aside, unwilling to dwell on doubts when so much good had come from their connection. Whatever his motivations, she resolved to honor his generosity by continuing to work hard and make the most of the opportunities he'd given her. Little did she know, their story was far from over. The impact of that fateful night, the moment she pulled him from the burning car, would ripple through both their lives in ways neither could have anticipated. And as Mia stood there, bathed in the soft glow of the city lights, she felt a spark of hope igniting within her, promising a brighter future ahead. Months turned into years, and Mia's life transformed in ways she could never have imagined. From the moment she stepped foot into Kingsley Tech, she poured her heart and soul into every task, determined to prove herself, not just to Adrian, but to herself. The early days were challenging. The corporate world was a far cry from the diner where she'd once worked. Colleagues spoke in jargon she didn't understand, deadlines loomed like storm clouds, and the pressure to perform felt suffocating at times. But Mia refused to give up. She spent late nights studying reports, attending workshops, and learning everything she could about the tech industry. Adrian remained a constant presence throughout her journey. He wasn't just her mentor, he became a friend, someone who believed in her when self-doubt crept in. During one particularly grueling project, Mia found herself overwhelmed by the complexity of the work. She sat in her cubicle late one evening, staring blankly at spreadsheets filled with numbers that seemed to blur together. Adrian appeared beside her, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You look like you're trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded," he said with a chuckle, setting the drinks down on her desk. Mia groaned, rubbing her temples. "It feels like I am. I don't know if I can do this, Adrian." He pulled up a chair, meeting her gaze with unwavering confidence. "Of course you can. You've faced harder challenges than this, Mia. Remember the night we met? If you could pull me out of a burning car, you can handle anything." His words struck a chord within her. It wasn't just encouragement. It was a reminder of how far she'd come since that fateful night. With renewed determination, Mia tackled the project head-on, eventually delivering results that impressed even the toughest critics. That victory marked a turning point for her. Slowly but surely, she began to see herself not as an outsider struggling to fit in, but as a vital part of the team. As Mia climbed the ranks at Kingsley Tech, her relationship with Adrian deepened. They shared countless conversations, some professional, others deeply personal. Adrian confided in her about the loneliness that came with his wealth and fame. Despite his outward success, he often felt isolated, disconnected from the world beyond boardrooms and business deals. Mia listened intently, offering insights born from her own experiences of hardship and resilience. "You know," Adrian said during one such conversation, "people think money solves everything, but it doesn't fix the emptiness. Sometimes, I envy people like you, people who find joy in simple things." Mia raised an eyebrow, amused. "Careful, Adrian. Saying stuff like that might make people think you're going soft." He laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "Maybe I am. Or maybe I'm finally learning what really matters." Their bond drew attention, both within the company and outside of it. Rumors swirled about the nature of their relationship. Some speculated that Adrian had taken a romantic interest in Mia, while others dismissed her rapid rise as nothing more than favoritism. But those who worked closely with Mia knew better. Her dedication, intelligence, and leadership skills earned her promotions based on merit, not connections. Even so, the whispers persisted, and Mia couldn't help but feel uneasy about the scrutiny. One evening, Adrian invited her to accompany him to a charity gala hosted by one of his foundations. The event aimed to raise funds for underprivileged youth, aligning perfectly with Mia's passion for giving back to communities like the one she grew up in. Still, she hesitated. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, glancing at the elegant gown hanging in her closet, a gift from Adrian. "I mean, these events aren't exactly my scene." Adrian smiled reassuringly. "You'll be amazing, Mia. Besides, I want everyone to meet the woman who saved my life and inspired me to live it differently." Reluctantly, Mia agreed. The night of the gala, she stood in front of the mirror adjusting the straps of her dress. Her reflection looked foreign to her. Sleek hair styled in loose waves, makeup highlighting her features, and jewelry borrowed from a coworker. For a moment she wondered if she belonged in this world of glamour and sophistication. But as Adrian arrived to pick her up, his eyes widening with admiration, she felt a flicker of confidence. The gala was held in a grand ballroom adorned with sparkling chandeliers and towering floral arrangements. Guests mingled beneath glittering lights, sipping champagne and exchanging pleasantries. As Mia walked alongside Adrian, cameras flashed, capturing their arrival. Reporters shouted questions, eager to uncover the story behind the billionaire and the waitress-turned-executive. During his speech, Adrian took the stage, addressing the crowd with heartfelt sincerity. "Tonight is about celebrating resilience and hope," he began, his voice steady and commanding. "But before we get started, I want to share a story about courage and humanity." He went on to recount the night Mia had saved him, describing in vivid detail the storm, the flames, and her bravery. The room fell silent, captivated by his words. When he finished, he turned to Mia, who stood near the edge of the stage, tears glistening in her eyes. "This woman," Adrian continued, his tone filled with emotion, "is the bravest soul I've ever known. She didn't hesitate to risk her life for mine, and she continues to inspire me every day. Without her, I wouldn't be standing here tonight." The audience erupted into applause, rising to their feet as Mia blushed furiously. Adrian gestured for her to join him on stage, and though she initially resisted, she eventually made her way to his side. Together, they accepted the standing ovation, their connection undeniable. That night marked another milestone in Mia's journey. She realized that her story wasn't just about survival or success, it was about impact. By sharing her experiences, she had the power to inspire others, to show them that kindness and determination could change lives. And as she stood beside Adrian, basking in the warmth of the crowd's appreciation, she felt a profound sense of belonging. In the weeks that followed, Mia threw herself into her work with renewed purpose. She spearheaded initiatives aimed at empowering underserved communities, using her platform to advocate for causes close to her heart. Adrian supported her efforts wholeheartedly, proud of the leader she had become. Their partnership extended beyond the office, blending friendship, trust, and mutual respect. Yet, Despite all the progress, Mia couldn't ignore the lingering question. In the back of her mind, where did their relationship stand? Was Adrian helping her purely out of gratitude, or did he harbor deeper feelings? And if he did, how did she feel in return? For now, Mia chose to focus on the present, cherishing the bond they shared without over-analyzing its complexities. Whatever the future held, she knew one thing for certain. That stormy night had set her on a path she never could have predicted, a path filled with challenges, triumphs, and the enduring reminder that even the smallest act of courage could spark extraordinary change. Years passed, and Mia's journey at Kingsley Tech reached new heights. What began as a chance encounter on a stormy night had blossomed into a life she once thought was only possible in dreams. Her hard work, combined with Adrian's unwavering support, propelled her through the ranks of the company. She wasn't just an employee anymore. She was a leader, someone who inspired others with her vision and determination. Yet, even as her career soared, Mia never lost sight of where she came from, or the people who mattered most to her. Her mother's health continued to improve, thanks to the medical treatments Adrian had arranged. For the first time in years, their family felt a sense of stability. Her younger brother thrived in his scholarship program, excelling academically and discovering a passion for robotics. Watching him grow into such a bright and curious young man filled Mia with pride. On weekends, when they gathered around the dining table, now in a spacious apartment Adrian helped them secure, laughter echoed through the rooms. It was a stark contrast to the quiet desperation that had once defined their lives. Adrian remained a constant presence in Mia's world, though their dynamic had shifted over time. He no longer acted solely as her mentor, but as a partner in both business and life. Their bond deepened with each passing year, built on mutual respect, trust, and shared experiences. Yet, despite their closeness, there was an unspoken question lingering between them. Where did their relationship truly stand? Was it purely professional, or was there something more beneath the surface? One evening after a long day at the office, Adrian invited Mia to join him on the rooftop garden of his penthouse. The city stretched out before them, its skyline glittering like a sea of stars. A gentle breeze carried the scent of blooming flowers, creating a serene atmosphere. They stood side by side, sipping wine and reflecting on how much had changed since their fateful meeting. "I've been thinking," Adrian began, breaking the comfortable silence, "about my future and yours." Mia turned to look at him, curiosity flickering in her eyes. "What about them?" Adrian hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "I'm getting older, Mia, and while I love what I do, I can't keep running this company forever. I need someone I trust implicitly to take over, to lead Kingsley Tech into its next chapter." Mia frowned, unsure where he was going with this. "You have plenty of talented executives who could step up. Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want that person to be you," Adrian said firmly, meeting her gaze. "I want you to become the president of Kingsley Tech." For a moment Mia was speechless. The weight of his words settled over her, heavy yet exhilarating. Becoming the president of one of the largest tech companies in the world was a monumental responsibility. One she wasn't sure she was ready for. "Adrian, I don't know," she started, shaking her head. "That's a huge role. Are you sure I'm the right person?" "You're more than ready," he replied without hesitation. "Look at everything you've accomplished. You've earned this, Mia. Every step of the way you've shown wisdom, strength, and compassion, the qualities we need to guide this company forward." Mia exhaled slowly, her mind racing. She thought back to the girl she used to be, the one who struggled to make ends meet, who doubted her worth and feared failure. That version of herself seemed so distant now, almost like a stranger. In her place stood someone capable, confident, and driven. Still, the idea of leading an entire corporation felt daunting. "What if I mess up?" she asked quietly, voicing the fear that had always lingered in the back of her mind. "What if I let everyone down?" Adrian placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You won't, and even if you stumble, and we all do, you'll get back up. That's who you are, Mia. You face challenges head-on and you learn from them. Trust yourself. His faith in her was unwavering, and it gave her the courage to take the leap. After days of contemplation, Mia accepted Adrian's offer, vowing to honor his legacy by continuing to prioritize innovation, empathy, and community impact. Under her leadership, Kingsley Tech launched groundbreaking initiatives aimed at bridging the digital divide, providing resources and opportunities to underserved populations worldwide. Mia traveled extensively, speaking at conferences and meeting individuals whose lives were transformed by these programs. Each success story reminded her of why she had chosen this path, to create a better future for others. Yet amid her professional achievements, Mia couldn't ignore the personal connection she shared with Adrian. As he stepped back from the day-to-day operations of the company, he spent more time pursuing passions he'd neglected for years: painting, writing, and mentoring young entrepreneurs. Though their roles had changed, their friendship remained as strong as ever. They often met for coffee or long walks, reminiscing about the past and dreaming about the future. One crisp autumn afternoon, as they strolled through Central Park, Adrian stopped suddenly, turning to face Mia. His expression was serious yet tender. "There's something I've wanted to say for a long time," he began, his voice soft. "But I wasn't sure if the timing was right." Mia tilted her head, intrigued. "What is it?" Adrian took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. "When you saved me that night, you didn't just save my life. You saved my soul. Before you, I was lost, consumed by the pressures of success and the emptiness it brought. But you showed me what really matters: kindness, integrity, and the power of human connection. You've changed me, Mia, in ways I'll never be able to repay." Tears welled up in Mia's eyes as she listened to his heartfelt words. "Adrian, you've done so much for me too. You gave me a chance when no one else would. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. We've grown together, haven't we?" He nodded, smiling warmly. "We have. And that's why I want to ask you something important. Whatever happens next for us, for Kingsley Tech, I hope we continue walking this path together, because I can't imagine doing any of it without you." In that moment, Mia realized the depth of their bond. It wasn't just gratitude or admiration, it was love. Not the kind born of obligation or convenience, but the kind rooted in mutual respect, shared values, and countless memories. As they embraced, surrounded by the golden hues of fall leaves, Mia knew their story was far from over. Years later, standing on the balcony of her own penthouse overlooking the city, Mia reflected on how far she'd come. From a tiny apartment, above a laundromat, to the pinnacle of corporate success, her journey had been anything but ordinary. But what mattered most wasn't the titles or accolades, it was the lives she had touched along the way. Her mother was healthy, her brother thriving, and her partnership with Adrian stronger than ever. As fireworks lit up the sky during a New Year's celebration, Mia raised a glass to the future. She thought about the girl she used to be, the one who braved storms and burning cars and smiled. That girl had taught her an invaluable lesson. Even in the darkest moments, light can emerge. All it takes is one act of courage, one spark of hope to change everything. And as she looked at Adrian beside her, his hand resting gently on hers, Mia knew she had found not just a mentor or a friend, but a true partner. Together, they had built something extraordinary, proving that sometimes the most unexpected encounters can lead to the most beautiful destinies.